going to be really hard to come by
Yeah.
this season. But I go back to Brooks' point, too. You also have to think about there were weeks in which a player would have to quarantine if you tested positive for COVID. And now things are starting to change and you're around your teammates more. We talk about the mental health of athletes. To push through that, to power through that, was really a remarkable feat. So I can't wait for the athletes to play this season, and I cannot wait for them to play in front of fans.
Well, I will say this. Some things are going to change. Some things are going to stay the same, especially when you look at the preseason polls. The top two on both the men's and women's side, not hugely surprising, but let's go ahead and show it to you now. The American Athletic Conference coaches preseason poll breaks down like this. Houston, who won the league last year, they're at number 1. Memphis, number 2. Penny Hardaway and that group after winning the NIT last year at number 2, followed by SMU. Wichita State, UCF, Cincinnati rounds out the top 6. You see the full 11 there. Mike, I'm going to start with you. There's a team outside of the top 2 who may surprise you. Who would that be?
Yeah, I think it's the Temple Owls. 2 years in a row for Coach Aaron McKee of losing seasons. That's not going to happen in Philly this season. Their backcourt is very good. Khalif Battle, Damian Dunn. That's a backcourt that can get it done, really move up 1 or 2 spots in the middle of the pack.
Brooke, same question to you. Is there someone that you're eyeing?
Yeah, the big green wave. Watch it, because Tulane is coming. And we know how excited Ron Hunter gets anyways, just as coaching. But he said that this is one of the best NCAA teams that he's ever coached. 2 Jalen's, Jalen Cook, Jalen Forbes. He talks about Jalen Cook being one of the top 5 guys he's ever coached. So I'm excited to see what this green wave is all about.
Mike, for you, I mean, you cover this league so much, but there's obviously the top 2. But is there a theme for you that you see out of this men's conference this year?
Yeah, well, I think there's 4 NCAA tournament teams. Obviously, we talked about Houston. That Kelvin Sampson culture, that's not going anywhere. They're going to be in the tournament for as long as he's there. Memphis has enough talent to be a Final Four type team. But if you look at 3, 4, and 5 spots, SMU, Wichita State, and UCF, it's going to be an absolute battle between those 3 teams to fix that 3rd, 4th, and 5th spot. I think you're looking at 4 NCAA tournament teams and potentially 2 NIT teams from the American this season. That's how gifted, from a talent standpoint, that this American Conference is this season.
Well, let's look at the women's poll, because again, the top 2, kind of maybe what we thought that this would be. The war on I-4 is going to battle for the top spot. South Florida taking it at number 1, UCF at number 2. Those were the 2 teams that played in the tournament championship game last year, followed by Houston, Tulane, Temple, Cincinnati, rounding out the top 6. You can see the full 11 there. Brooke, let's start with you. If there's a team that's not at the top, but maybe somewhere in the middle or the bottom, who are you most looking forward to watching this season?
To me, you got to go all the way to the bottom. I think Memphis has a very bright future ahead of them under Katrina Merriweather's leadership. She's a coach who has taken her teams to the postseason consistently. I love her style, I love her energy, and I love the fit for her at Memphis. I think she's just going to do a fantastic job. So, yeah, look out for the Memphis Tigers.
For 3 new women's head coaches, again, in the conference, looking excited to see them throughout the next 2 days. Mike, for you, who are you looking at on the women's side?
I will raise you the Wichita State Shockers. I like the Shockers. This team, when they're clicking offensively, is really good. Particularly Asia Strong is an exceptional talent. She is statistically one of the best scorers out of the pick and roll and cutting for baskets in the American Conference. They're going to run more offense through her. I like Asia Strong and the Shockers.
Brooke, this is what we're going to see a lot of now is South Florida and UCF, and it's because there's no more UConn. I mean, we got so used to seeing them win the league every year. What about the parity do you like about this now? I mean, this is fun. It's kind of anyone's game right now.
Yeah, I think that's what's so great about this conference is now South Florida is the team that has the mark on their back, and everybody's chasing the Bulls. But you got the war on I-4. That's a terrific storyline. I think Wichita State is going to be a team that's going to shock some folks. Temple coming in with a strong team of their own. And we are seeing the most parity that we've ever seen in the conference before. You know, Houston getting the most wins in the conference that they have since joining the league. So, yeah, it's going to be a toss-up this year on the women's side. It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, Brooke, Mike, and we will be here for the next 5 hours talking to coaches and players from the men's and women's programs. But coming up next, Mike Aresco, the conference commissioner, will join us to answer some questions. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the American Athletic Conference Basketball Media Days, Year 3 inside Dickies Arena for the conference basketball tournament. But this is going to be the first year that we see it with 100% capacity. Here's Morgan Uber with a look inside the arena.
We're here today in Fort Worth, Texas, also known as Cowtown in these parts. Fort Worth is known for its Western flair, having the world's largest honky-tonk and the $540 million state-of-the-art venue, Dickies Arena. The arena is home to concerts, rodeos, and now, most importantly, our American men's and women's basketball championships. We're going to give you a little tour inside. Come on and let's take a look. The first thing that you notice, all of this attention to detail. The entire arena is basically like a shrine to the Lone Star State. Throughout the building, you can find chandeliers inspired by the prairie rose of Texas. And around all of the upper level banisters, stainless steel cutouts of the native Texas grass.
But as you come in, we embrace that culture of, cowboy and where the West begun right here in Fort Worth. And our fans will see it. You'll see it in the experiences. You'll see it in our food and beverage.
Everything is bigger and better in Texas, even the concessions and drinks. You can stop by the TX Whiskey Tavern for a local Texas tea. Dickies is a 14,000-seat arena with 40 suites, 32 loge boxes, and 2 premium clubs. There's truly not a bad seat in the house. Plus, you also have the 360-degree main center hung video board where you can catch all of the live action. In between this video board and all of the ribbon boards around the arena, there's almost a quarter of an acre of video surface. Come March 7th, the hardwood will be installed. Your team will either be in or en route to Cowtown, and we can't wait to see you here.
Well, we are looking forward to another tournament inside Dickies Arena. And I am joined with someone else who's also looking forward to it, Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco. Thanks so much for joining us, Commissioner. I mean, how excited are you to be able to have this tournament again? Last year we had it, but it was limited capacity. To be able to have the tournament that we all envision it to be.
Well, Chris, first of all, great to have you with us again. It's going to be exciting because we knew that had it not been for the pandemic, we'd have had big crowds. A lot of our schools can drive and can get here very easily. It's a great venue. Matt Homan and his team do an outstanding job, and we're just really excited. Fort Worth's a great place to be, as you know. There's a lot to do there. The weather's terrific that time of year. It was last year. Just a shame that we couldn't have as many fans as we wanted, but it's going to be fun this year to be able to do that again.
Well, as we about to kick off the 21-22 basketball season, I know you have some statements and comments that you'd like to make to the rest of the media, so I'll let you take it away.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. And again, the first thing I do want to say again is to thank Chris for being with us. Great to have you back in the studio, and we obviously appreciate the fine work you and your colleagues at ESPN do. The network supports us incredibly well, and we really appreciate it. And the American Athletic Conference is going to continue to be a dynamic presence in the collegiate landscape. And you're going to be, as far as I know, you're going to be on the UCF Cincinnati football game on ABC.
It's going to be a good one this weekend.
That should be a lot of fun. It's going to be a good one. We're thrilled for Cincinnati to be number 3 in the country. It just shows where they've come and where the conference has come. And we're pleased to have you on that telecast. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you to our annual Men's and Women's Basketball Media Days. This is the first that we're doing virtually in our state-of-the-art studio here, which incidentally ESPN certainly helped us design, and we're very pleased at how it turned out. We've been fortunate to have had in-person media days for basketball in terrific places such as Memphis, New York City, Connecticut, Philadelphia. But we think that this year's format will allow media and fans alike to hear directly from some of the best coaches and college basketball players in the nation. With the uncertainty surrounding the pandemic last year, we were unable to hold a media day. So this really is our first opportunity to introduce and welcome 2 important members of our staff who are responsible for the day-to-day administration of our men's and women's basketball. Brian Thornton joined us last fall as our Associate Commissioner for Basketball, and has already proven to be an incredibly great resource, not only for me and our staff, but for our men's and women's coaches, administrators, game officials, and most of all, our student athletes. And I would also like to welcome Erica Holmes, our new Director of Women's Basketball Operations and Sport Administration, who will be our primary liaison on all women's basketball matters with our member schools, and we're thrilled to have her with us. I'd also like to welcome our new head coaches, Katrina Merriweather at Memphis, Toyelle Wilson at SMU, and Angie Nelp at Tulsa will be joining us in women's basketball, while Wes Miller at Cincinnati joins us on the men's side. And I wish all of our new coaches sustained success and good health and well-being as we go forward. As we enter the 2020-21 season, there are many issues and topics pertaining to college basketball and college sports generally that have been in the headlines. It truly is an unprecedented time, whether it's the global pandemic, which unfortunately is still with us, although obviously we do think it's waning and we hope that continues. There are fundamental changes potentially to NCAA governance. We've had the introduction of name, image, and likeness opportunities for student athletes. Our transfer rules have changed. There's a whole wholesale NCAA gender equity review, which was badly needed. And there's also conference realignment on the horizon. And much of what we know about college basketball will probably look substantially different in a relatively short time. Nevertheless, whatever changes are coming, our objectives and our mission in the American Athletic Conference remain the same. From the day this conference was reconstituted, we have been steadfast in our commitment to competing and succeeding at the highest level. We've done exactly that. And in men's and women's basketball, we've had tremendous success. Under the Americans banners, our members won an NCAA championship in men's basketball, 3 national championships in women's basketball. We've made 2 Final Four men's appearances. We've had women's Final Four appearances. In fact, we had 6 of those, and we won the men's NIT this past year. While some of the names change, I can state without reservation today that we have several teams on both the men's and women's side that are capable of adding to that legacy this year. This conference has consistently elevated its members and has provided a prime stage for those programs that have been willing to invest in competing for championships. And make no mistake, that will continue. I expect that I'll receive questions regarding our future plans when 3 of our current members eventually leave the conference. I cannot get into specifics for obvious reasons, but I can tell you that we have a clear strategy that will strengthen this conference as we enter our second decade. We will invest in institutions that are themselves invested in our shared commitment, and will continue to provide our members, old and new, with the foundation of resources and exposure that will keep us at the forefront of college athletics. We look forward to this season, with great anticipation. It's shaping up as a truly exciting one. On the men's side, Houston and Coach Kelvin Sampson have gotten better each year, and that culminated in last year's Final Four. I want to personally and on behalf of the conference congratulate Kelvin and his outstanding team. It was an exciting tournament. There were some exciting games, and they did an unbelievable job. We know they're going to be in contention again and for another long postseason run. And I especially want to commend Kelvin. We know where the Houston program was many years ago when he took over. He's also been, the dean of our coaches, and he's been a close personal friend of mine. And I truly appreciate what he's done for the conference, and I just want to again salute him and his team for a tremendous run. Memphis and Coach Penny Hardaway won the NIT championship last year, and we congratulate them. Memphis also has the top incoming class in the nation. Some exciting things are going on at Memphis with Penny and his team, and we look forward to an exciting time there this year. And let's not forget that it was Wichita State which won our regular season championship last year, as Coach Isaac Brown took the Shockers to the NCAA tournament in his very first year. We have a deep conference this year and an outstanding roster of coaches. And I don't mean to slight any of the teams that I'm not mentioning, because they are all outstanding teams. On the women's side, we had Jose Fernandez in South Florida. And Jose is the dean of our women's coaches. And South Florida take the mantle by winning our regular season and tournament championships, and they reached the second round of the NCAA tournament. UCF had an outstanding season as well and also made the NCAA tournament. I have to confess that I was disappointed with both the NCAA tournament selections and with the seeding of our teams. I just feel strongly that Houston was also deserving last year of an NCAA bid. And I think, you know, when the seedings aren't what we think they should be, it's a disservice, but considering what these teams accomplished. But let's not dwell on that. We've got a terrific group of teams, and all three of the teams I mentioned returned their key players from last year. We expect all three to be in postseason contention once again. And again, congratulations to Katie Abrahamson as well for what she obviously did at UCF as well as Jose in making the tournament. Our league is improving. Our women's league is improving. Many of our teams are capable of making a serious run in the conference and in the postseason. And as with the men, we have an outstanding roster of coaches. We're especially pleased once again to stage some compelling matchups on national television. We'll have more than 60 men's basketball games on an ESPN linear platform, including 2 games on ABC network television. We also have 3 key games on CBS, the broadcast network. CBS is part of our longstanding and very valued partnership. In women's basketball, more than half of our teams will have at least 1 ESPN linear television appearance, which is remarkable coverage for our conference. And we'll continue to have all home games that aren't on a linear platform on ESPN+, which has made more games available to more people than ever before. And again, I would like to thank ESPN for their tremendous support of our conference and also to CBS Sports for what they've done for college basketball and our conference over the years. But ESPN has been just a tremendous overall partner. Again, I'm in a studio that, again, our friends at ESPN helped design, and we're very pleased that Chris obviously can join us as well. As we work through what we fervently hope will be the final phase of the global pandemic, we invite all of our fans to join us in Fort Worth in March for our men's and women's basketball championships at Dickies Arena. After having to cancel our 2020 tournaments at the outset of the pandemic, we were able to stage our women's and men's championships with limited attendance in Fort Worth last year. And I cannot tell you how many of our players, coaches, and administrators, as well as fans, shared with us that this was the best arena in which they have ever played. I want to thank Matt Homan and his team for their wonderful hospitality, and we look forward to a long relationship with Matt and with Dickies Arena. I really have never seen a venue that I think is as nice. It's really an absolute pleasure to be there. And again, we expect really good weather that time of year. There's a lot of outdoor space where people can enjoy themselves. Fort Worth is a tremendous city, and we're just excited to be back there. And we obviously are confident that our fans will this year have the full experience of a vibrant city and a first-class venue, and to have our teams play in front of terrific crowds as they battle for the championships. In closing, I know you're going to enjoy our media days today. We thank our fans, our media partners, and our friends in print and electronic media for their support. It means a great deal to us. I want you to enjoy the next few days, and thank you very much for your support. It's been a pleasure being able to talk to you this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Aresco. We're now going to open it up for the rest of the media to ask questions via Zoom. Chuck Sullivan will call on you to ask your question. So if you raise your hand or get your question in the queue for Commissioner Aresco. So Chuck, who is our first one?
Thanks, Chris. We'll take the first question from Jason Munns from the Memphis Commercial Appeal. Jason, if you just unmute yourself and ask the question.
Morning, Mike. How are you? Can you hear me, Mike?
I don't know that the commissioner can hear. Mike, if you want to ask your question, and then I will pose it to Commissioner Aresco for you.
Okay. Just wanted to ask him if he has any comments or would like to comment on the news that came out yesterday about Conference USA and their efforts to join forces with the AAC as this realignment stuff continues to swirl.
So until we get our IFB situation set up, comments on the news yesterday with Conference USA and aligning themselves with the American Athletic Conference. Do you have any remarks on that?
Very limited, comments. I think we've stated a few times that we're we're not really interested in discussing any kind of merger or conference alignment. At this point, though, I don't want to say much about it because I have not responded to the letter that I did receive late yesterday. I understand that more details of that plan were given to the media, and I don't know how accurate even those accounts were. But we did receive a letter. We'll respond to it very shortly. So that's probably all I should say. As the late great Mike Slive always used to say, I think we'll leave it at that.
Good deal. Chuck, let's go on with another question while we get Commissioner Aresco's IFB situation set up.
Great, thanks. And again, just for clarity, for members of the media, if you would just use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and then we'll get to as many questions as we can there. And a reminder, we've enabled video recording privileges, I believe, for everyone on the call who should need them. If you need recording privileges, please feel free to just drop a note into the chat. And also, you should be aware that the segments will be available on the conference's YouTube channel shortly thereafter, after each segment. So we should be in good shape there. If you should need anything, feel free to, again, just shoot me a note in text or in the chat, and we'll get to you as we can. We'll move to the next question from Jacob Schwartz with Voice Report, please. Jacob, I'm going to ask you to unmute and you can ask your question.
Thank you. If he can hear, to the commissioner, you talk about just sort of changes, and that would involve the soon-to-be realignment of this conference. With all the teams that are leading the Cincinnati's, the Houston's, the Florida's, and how excited would you say you are with the fact that now you're officially in a new home in Texas? Dickies Arena is expected to be a capacity, you mentioned, a $540 million arena.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be in Texas, and we're also really excited about being at Dickies Arena. It's just an absolutely perfect venue for us. As you know, we have a number of schools whose fan bases can drive or have short flights, and we tend to have a concentration in this part of the country, although we have a significant presence as well, in the East. But again, it's easy to get to Dallas, obviously one of the best airport situations in the country. Many of our fans can drive. So the arena, though, is absolutely terrific, and anybody who's ever been there just raves about it, and it's impossible not to. And we're also really pleased about being in Dallas, having our conference office here. Dallas is the epicenter of college athletics. There are several other conferences here. The National Football Hall of Fame is here. The College Football Playoff is here. As a matter of fact, the College Football Playoff is in our building upstairs. And people think, the conspiracy theorists think that I planned it that way so I could go up and complain to them myself about the ranking of our teams. But in fact, I didn't even know they were here until we had pretty much decided that this was a good building to be in. But we love Dallas. We think it's a great spot for our conference, and we're very pleased.
Thanks, Mike.
We'll take the next question from Sean from Owls Daily. Sean, if you can just unmute yourself. And
I think I've lost him.
Hi, Mike. So sort of a two-part expansion question. Curious if you can even estimate any kind of timeline on when.
So we're going to wait for the Zoom to reconnect. It's funny you joke about the playoff committee being just a couple floors above you. You might have something to say on November 3rd when they eventually come out for the first time. But as we look across the conference, with the way that the basketball landscape is going to be, NIL rules, with an extra year for seniors, we'll see so much more talent this year. What excites you about the basketball season and the landscape of what we're seeing college basketball be like this year?
I think, Chris, we've got some outstanding teams, when you look at Memphis and Wichita and SMU and others. We also have an outstanding roster of coaches. In terms of the landscape, there's a lot of upheaval, and the transfer portal has meant that obviously we've had, roster changes up and down the line. We've had some serious, changes there. I think the fact that we have had a pretty stable coaching environment, right? We have Wes is obviously our new coach in men's basketball. I think that this conference really can make a statement this year. I think we can put several teams into the NCAA tournament. I think they have chances, you know, with Memphis and Houston and Wichita and SMU and others. Cincinnati, I think, will be revitalized. I think you're going to see, you know, some deep runs in the tournament. But on the other hand, the landscape of college basketball has changed dramatically. We're going to have to see how it plays out with this transfer portal. It's affected, you know, really well over 1,000 student athletes, and you know, it's not easy on coaches either. You know, you got to sort of recruit your roster 24/7, you know, all year, and that's difficult.
Well, I think technology might be on our side now. Chuck, our Zoom is up and going. What's the next question for Commissioner Aresco?
All right, we're going to go back to Sean Pastor with Owls Daily, please.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, so I had sort of maybe a two-part question about expansion or potential expansion. First, is there any way you can sort of estimate a timeline for when you might make the your next move, the league? And then secondly, I wonder what kind of either consideration or conversation goes on around sort of the geography of the league with respect to Olympic sports and schedules and things like that.
Yeah, with the timeline, we're hoping is within the next, you know, few weeks to a month. We really don't want this to be a prolonged process. We've had a lot of time, you know, to study it, to study what we want to do. Some of the accounts before were really not accurate in terms of how we were operating. And again, schools have approached us, and sometimes you have discussions with schools, and for whatever reason, things don't work out. But we haven't been going out contacting people who haven't expressed an interest in us. Now, as far as Olympic sports, we do have some geographical cohesion in this conference. We potentially could have more. We also are looking in, and everyone is, all the conferences are looking into potentially regionalizing more of our Olympic sports because of the wear and tear, you know, on our student athletes. You know, football's different in terms of the fewer number of games and the less, you know, travel you have. But with Olympic sports and even in basketball, sometimes that can be an issue, although less so. But with Olympic sports and a lot of our teams, and you have to remember too, there are a limited number of team sports in Olympic sports, and so consequently, with respect to the other sports, you have a meet or a championship each year, and you don't have a lot of. You can regionalize. You know, for example, you know, Temple in track and field can enter into a lot of meets in the New England and New York and metropolitan mid-Atlantic areas, and so consequently, there is regionalization going on even now in some of the sports. But we expect that. You know, we'll try to, geography does matter. It probably doesn't matter as much as it once did. I don't think there's much question that some of the conferences are far more far-flung than they were for a lot of reasons, Remember, you're trying to create a dynamic conference that competes at the highest level, that has schools that culturally are very similar and that share the same values and share the same vision. And consequently, that means that you're going to have a little more geographical diversity. But if you look at our conference now, there's a relative concentration, you know, from the Mississippi, you know, slightly westward and mostly eastward, and we'll see where it goes. I can't really comment on, you know, expansion per se at this point. I don't want to get into any specifics. I have said that we plan to expand because obviously we don't want to stay at the numbers we're at now. But that's pretty much all I can say about it. But thank you for the question.
We'll go next to Mason Voth of KGSO Radio in Wichita, please.
Yeah, Commissioner, early on in the process, it seemed like the narrative for the American and conference realignment was going to be being very offensive in the situation. Now it seems like it's more of a defensive approach with 3 schools planning to leave for the Big 12. How do you guys kind of move forward from here, and how did it change from being to where you guys might be the poacher and now you're the poached looking to make up for the loss of 3 schools?
Well, Jason, first of all, I hate to use that word poached, period. You know, I just, you know, it's not really what's going on. Schools express interest in joining particular conferences. You know, conferences are voluntary organizations. We have to remember that. We have to remember that if you pay your exit fee and you stay a particular amount of time and that's pretty much true of every conference. You can leave. You can determine your fate and how you want to go about things. And so you have to remember that. You also have to remember that we can't take this personally. You know, it's the nature of our business. Schools want to improve themselves. Conferences have changed dramatically. Realignment's been going on for a long time. I don't particularly like it. I don't think a lot of people like it. It's tough on everyone. I wouldn't say that our position is defensive at all. I think, you know, we've obviously got some schools that are leaving. They have their reasons for leaving. We've had an outstanding relationship with those schools. We wish them well. They've done a great job for us, and we've done a great job for them. I think what's sometimes overlooked is what this conference has done for schools, what the American Athletic Conference has done in elevating programs that may not have been at the level they're at now, and by really, I think, intelligent scheduling with the great support of ESPN, and I can't stress that enough, how much ESPN has supported us and what their exposure and their promotion has meant for this conference. So these schools have benefited enormously, and now a few of them are looking for another opportunity. That's fine. We would like to have had them stay. But in terms of the conference, our goals and vision have not changed. And I think once we reconstitute, I think we're going to continue. In fact, I have no doubt we're going to continue our approach and try to become a P6 conference, an Autonomy 6 conference. You know, I think in view of what's happened around college athletics, in view of what's happened in the Big 12, I think we have a claim, you know, to make as we continue to compete at the highest level. And so consequently, I think, and the last thing I'll say is it's not a question of defensive, offensive. It's a question of you have to accept the realities. You have to do what's in the interest of your conference. You have to protect and defend and you know, enhance your conference, your brand, the profiles of your schools. You have a real responsibility to them, and you do what you have to do. And again, as I said earlier, you don't take it personally. We have good relationships with all the commissioners and a lot of the athletic directors who are involved in these processes, and we understand their motivations. And you know, we went through a tough period 5 or 6 years ago when the Big 12 did that. You know, it was very unfortunate how public it was, and you know, a lot of our schools, you know, did express an interest. And we handled that, and we handled it well, and we kept really good cohesion in this conference. And this conference will continue to be cohesive. We've got a great group of schools, and we're going to be fine going forward.
We'll go back to Jason Munns from the Memphis Commercial Appeal. Jason, just unmute yourself and feel free to ask your follow-up, please.
Hey, Mike, just wanted to maybe switch gears a little bit and talk and ask you about Memphis's IARP infractions case. It's unclear at this stage, you know, when it's going to be resolved, but I think it's on the table that a decision could come down during the season. How fair do you think that is when? And it's not just Memphis, but it doesn't, you know, any school that has a potential, you know, NCAA infractions decision sort of looming over its head and potentially coming down during the season.
Yeah, I don't know yet, Jason. And again, I probably should not comment because, again, the process is ongoing. It's very sensitive. You know, we hope, obviously we support Memphis, and we hope the resolution is a fair resolution. You know, again, I don't know what the timeline is, and I can't really speak to the fairness of the timeline at this point. I think it's better, you know, just not to comment on that. Thanks.
All right, we'll take our final question for the Commissioner from Christopher Heidel from Herb FM Radio.
Hello, Commissioner. Thank you so much for taking my question this morning. I hope everything's okay down there in Dallas.
Yeah, it is. It might be raining. I don't know.
I don't know. Up here, I'm here in Baltimore. It's cloudy as anything outside. But anyway, last year Houston made it to the Final Four for basketball. What does that feel for you as a commissioner, knowing that with all the good teams you have in this league, that Houston made it all the way to the Final Four in Indianapolis?
Well, first of all, we were thrilled. That program has, been really good for a while. When you really think about it, they had the heartbreaking loss to Michigan several years ago, and that Michigan team went to the championship game. So Houston could have advanced very far. And then, in the year before, the pandemic, they took Kentucky right to the wire, and I thought they were going to win that game. They led with 48 seconds left. I think they had a 3-point lead, and ultimately lost in the last seconds to a good Kentucky team. So they've been on the cusp, and Kelvin, again, as I said earlier, I cannot really laud Kelvin enough for the job he's done there. And obviously, Tillman Fertitta at Houston has contributed greatly to the facilities, and the Fertitta Center is an absolutely wonderful venue. We're going to miss them down the road in our conference, but we've been thrilled to have them, and we're thrilled to have them for potentially another few years. We don't know yet what the timeline on that is, but I just want to again thank Kelvin too for all he's done to promote the conference. He's been really steadfast in his support for us and for me personally as commissioner, and I can't tell you how pleased I was for them. And we never root in conference play. We always root obviously for the non-conference the games, but we're really thrilled to see what he's done there. And again, this last year there were some terrific games between Houston and Memphis and Wichita, and they really had some terrific games, especially in the tournament. So we'll hope that we can provide our network partners again with those kinds of games. But it was gratifying also, last thing I'll say on this is it was gratifying to have a team in the Final Four. I think this league's been a good league. I think sometimes it doesn't get the attention or the respect it deserves. We have had years when we've had 4 teams in the tournament. We've been a multiple bid league every year, and we've had some good teams, and we've come really close. UCF almost beat Duke a few years ago. That was a heartbreaking loss. They really thought they would win that game as well. So we've had a lot of situations where we could have advanced a little further in the tournament. You take all those losses, harder than you do sometimes enjoy the wins, and we've had a lot of them in the tournament. So we've been a really good team. We've had a good league. We've had good teams, and to have another Final Four team in Houston this year was, as I said, extremely gratifying.
Well, Mike O'Donnell already predicted it. He thinks 4 teams get in the tournament this year. So we'll see. Commissioner Aresco, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Chris. I hope Mike's right, and maybe even more,
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to have you, and enjoy the day, and we'll look forward to it.
I appreciate it. And the Houston talk was a perfect segue because that starts our day with our